Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Teresa Cantley. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hello, and welcome back to the C-Suite Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Teresa Cantley, and I'm going to talk today about change. Change is hard. Change is difficult. Transformation is difficult. If you think about the butterfly, when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, the transformation that happens in the middle is super messy. I was listening to a meditation the other day, and they were talking about it, and it was just what the caterpillar actually goes through. It's quite messy, but what comes out on the other side is amazing. And so many people, and I think I was like this when I first started my business, that they think, okay, when I'm looking to do something new, or when we get to the point where we know we need to change, it's going to happen like that. And as long as we have this amazing plan and we have everything well thought out, and believe me, I was one of these people, uber regimented, uber structured. We have everything well thought out. We have all the steps. We are going to get to the other side, and it's going to be great. And what happens along the way is not that. It is not that. I mean, you can have the best laid plan, and there are going to be bumps in the middle. There are going to be obstacles and challenges that happen. And that is what we call the messy middle. And so many people get to that messy middle and they want to turn around. They want to quit. They want to give up because it's hard. But as trite as it sounds, it is so true that if it doesn't challenge you, it's not going to change you. So when we make the decision to change, whether we are launching a new menu item or a new menu in our business, or we're looking at our business and we're saying, how can we change up our restaurant if you're a restaurant owner? How can we change up our retail store if you're a retail store owner? Or how can I change up if you're a business owner who owns an online business? How can I change things up and think differently and potentially do things a little bit differently so that I can create that great experience? And, I had a conversation the other day because, let me preface this with, change also happens when we've gotten used to doing things the same way. And we say to ourselves, well, it's always been done that way. But we realize that our business is stale or stagnant or going backwards, or we as a person feel inside that we have this burning desire that we want to do something different, that we want to build something, we want to create something amazing, and we don't really know what it is, but it's something we've never done before. Or back to what I had just said with, we've always done things the same way, but now our business is getting stale. It's going backwards. It's, so maybe it's time we do something different. And I recently had a conversation with someone who is a leader in an accounting firm, and we were talking about their systems. And he said, well, we have 3 systems that do the same thing, because I asked him to do a tech stack. And he said, 3 systems that do the same thing. And I'm like, well, why do you use 3 systems? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, because we've always used 3 systems. And I'm like, you don't know why? Well, no. It's just how we've always done it. We've always done it that way, and that's what we've always had. But he said, but I know we need to do something different because we're wasting a lot of money, but we also like people are getting frustrated. So change and that messy middle that we experience happens when we decide that to stay the same and to continue to do things the same is much more painful than it would be to change. So even when we make that decision that it's time that we have to do things different, because maybe it's painful because we've experienced a decline in our business. Maybe it's painful because we keep having people that leave. Maybe it's painful because we have this burning dream in our heart to do something, to design our own clothing versus selling other people's clothing, to create a new offer for consulting because the one that we have, it doesn't quite feel right. When we make that decision to change, we're going to have to embark on a journey of something we've never done before. And in order to do that, we're going to have challenge. We're going to have obstacle. We're going to have things that get super messy, which is the messy middle. Because that middle piece, in order for transformation to happen, in order for growth to happen, we need to be faced. It's the hero's journey. We need to be faced with some kind of an obstacle. But the truth is that messy middle is when people want to give up. That messy middle is where people have tons and tons of excuses as to why we can't do this or why we need to continue to do things the same way we've always done them. And I've experienced being a leader in a business. I lead a restaurant, if you know my story. But I've also experienced it myself as a coach and a consultant who's been doing this for a long time. So in the restaurant that I run, I've seen this messy middle because we've seen things that need to change. The person that ran the restaurant prior and who really was the leader of the culinary piece of the business, that person was super toxic. And when they left, what we thought was we just needed to repair the people and we needed to really repair this toxic culture. But what we started to understand is that things just needed to change completely because the way that we were doing things wasn't right. The way that we were doing things was actually holding the business back. And what was even more so holding the business back is people's unwillingness to change and do things differently, whether it was how French fries were made or how someone got onboarded into the business. People didn't want to do things differently because it was hard. And I can't tell you how many business owners I've talked to when they come to me and they're like, I need help. I want to grow my business, but I'm burned out and I don't know if I have it in me to put in the same amount of effort that I put in when I built the business. I don't know if I have it in me to do it again because it's hard. But here's the thing, if you want to build something amazing and you want to move that dream that you have forward, then the effort that you're going to have to put in it is going to be challenging. And it's challenging because it's something you've never done before. But this messy middle can also show up, as I said, when you realize that how you have been and what you've been doing, that potentially you've built a wall around you or you've put shields up to protect yourself from failure or rejection or being afraid of the unknown or people or having that imposter syndrome creep up and tell you you're not good enough. You can't do this. This isn't going to work. You need to give up. What if people laugh at you? What if people think you're crazy? All of that happens in the messy middle because it's challenging us to rise to that next level, to go to that next level and be the person that we've been meant to be. And I can say this because I've experienced it myself in growth as an individual, letting go of things that were holding me back, letting go of past stories and limiting beliefs and that self-sabotage that creeps in as perfectionism or as a people pleaser or, you name it, however it creeps in, where it's something that's trying to keep you safe. It's something that comes up and is something that's trying to prevent you from growing because it's scary. But growth is scary. It's messy. It's uncomfortable because it's full of doubt. It's full of missteps because it's stuff that you've never done before. That's why it's called growth, right? So I have this gentleman that I work with, as I said, at the restaurant that I lead. And when that toxic individual left, he was moved into or raised his hand and said, I really want to be moved into this manager's role. Okay. But what we didn't know is how much he was going to get stuck in that messy middle of here's how we've been doing it all along. And we know we need to change. And here's where we want to get to. So in order to get from point A to point B, we have to go through the mud. We have to go through admitting that we've been doing something wrong, or we have to go through saying, okay, like I know we need to do things differently. And I'm not necessarily, I know I don't necessarily know how to do it. And raising your hand and saying, I need help because growth is messy. It's uncomfortable. It pushes people to break through that comfort zone to that next level. But you have to be willing to do it. And I think the biggest thing, there are strategies and tactics and things about navigating that messy middle, testing things, getting really becoming R&D and trying things and looking at the failure and then looking at that failure and saying, okay, what can we learn from it? So then what can we do differently? Those are all tactical things that you can do. But I think the really hard part about navigating that messy middle is getting really honest with you and really finding out who you are, what you're made of, and being willing to say, even though I don't know how to do this, I'm going to do it anyway. So this leader in the restaurant had learned from an individual who had been doing things incorrectly for a really long time. And when it came time to, okay, this is really impacting the business and we're seeing profit leaking. We're seeing people not being happy. We're seeing that, people get hired and then they leave 2 weeks later. What is going on here? And really digging into it. And what needs to happen next is that willingness to do things differently. That willingness to say, we're going to figure this out. And I have a big belief that we can figure this out. And it's really hard for people to accept that because what it requires, and when you're going through change and when you're going through growth, that inner critic, those limiting beliefs, those the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, it all will creep up and it gets really, really loud because the truth is it doesn't really go anywhere, right? It's always there and it gets really loud and it gets loud because you're pushing past doing something that you've never done before. I have written so many scientific articles in my time. I've never written a book about my stories. So when I embarked on this journey, and I am in the messy middle right now, that self-doubt creeps in, that nobody's going to read your book. Nobody's going to care about this. Nobody's going to want to hear your stories. You're not a writer anyway. It creeps up and it comes in and it gets super loud. And the reason why it gets loud is because you're doing something that's going to help you to grow, to transform. So if we take it from a business perspective, when you need to implement new systems, or you need to implement new process, or you need to lead differently, or you need to launch something, get rid of something that you've had in your business for a really long time, a product, an offer, a service, and you're like, it's not working anymore, it doesn't align, it's really hard to let go. It's really hard. And, the self-doubt creeps up of, if we let this go, if we make our French fries differently, or if we open up the kitchen differently, or if we, you know, let go of this product line and bring in this new product line. If we do something, if we let go of what we've always had, what if we fail? What if it doesn't work? What if this new thing doesn't work? And what if we fail? We're going to lose money. That's where people go right to. We're going to lose money. What if I let that client go that I've been with for a really long time? I'm going to lose money. And what if it doesn't fail? What if I can't fill that space? And that happens because we made the decision to start to change. And what happens in the middle of where we're starting and where we want to end up is messy. But when it gets messy like that, that's when we need to push through, even when it gets hard. So from a tactical perspective, and I'm just talking to you as Teresa. From a tactical perspective, it's putting together a plan and saying, okay, here's the milestones that we know we need to reach. In 30 days, we're going to do this. We know that in 90 days, we want to have these new operating procedures done. We want to have these new operating processes done because we want the business to run like a well-oiled machine. So along the way, 30 days, we're going to do this. 60 days, we're going to do this. 90 days, we're going to do this. Every week, we are going to chunk it down and we're going to do these individual things. That's a tactical thing that we can do. But here's the thing. What is way more important is then how we show up every day when we are doing those tasks, when we are putting actions into place and putting routines into place to get us to each one of those milestones, how we show up when it doesn't work and it starts to get messy. That's what's even more important. That's when we have to be willing to dance with this change, to get into that messy middle and get our feet dirty and our hands dirty and just learn how to just dance in it. Ask it questions. Why, if things aren't working or you start doubting whether or not this was the right decision, start asking yourself, what are the facts behind the decision that we made that to show us that this wasn't the right decision? More than likely, there aren't any. It's just your brain trying to keep you safe because that unknown is scary. That unknown of launching a new piece of software or launching a new process or putting together a new menu item or maybe even just stripping away your menu and completely doing something different. Or maybe looking at it and saying, we're not just a restaurant or we're not just a retail store. We're going to teach classes or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And the thing is that when things start to not go right, people want to just give up right away. They want to abandon it. And that's when, if you listen to my last podcast episode, we talked about moving the goalpost all the time. So I think the bigger thing is to realize that along the way towards growth and transformation, you're not broken. You're going to make mistakes. There are going to be missteps. And you just need to embrace all of it and ask it questions. When it starts to not go right, ask it questions. Okay, what could we have done better? Where did we make a misstep? What can we learn from this? How can we pivot? How can we try something different? And when we start to be able to do that, we start to see that the mud really isn't that deep, or the mud really isn't as thick, and we're getting through it. We can start to see that light. We can start to push through that cocoon to get to the other side of it. So that gentleman I was telling you about, the one that had been there for a while, heading the culinary team, it showed up for him, that messy middle of like pushing back and saying, I don't have time to do this, or it's not going to work. I've always done it this way, or, I'm just going to continue to do it this way because it's easiest for me. That's not going to get you to the other side. That's not going to get you to growth. And it took sitting down and having a conversation with him to say, what you're creating here, what it's doing, it's not just, it had to do with creating new processes, new operating processes in the business. It's not just giving you work to do so that we do something different. What it's doing is it's teaching your team how to do things. It's finding the gap and filling it with something that we can do better, we can do different. It's starting to connect you as the leader and your team in a much deeper way, or connect us as a business and our customers in a much deeper way. But in order to do that, we're going to have to really strip away everything that really isn't us to reveal who we've always been meant to be. And what happened when we sat down and really had that conversation and really got into, look, this isn't about you. This isn't about just doing something different just to do something different. This is about helping to impact someone's life, to impact the lives of the people that work with you. My assistant is launching, she has an online boutique, and she's had this online boutique and she's been super successful with it. But she started to realize that it didn't really align with what she believed in and what she wanted to do and how she wanted to grow. And so she embarked on this journey of, I want to design my own stuff. I want to have my own line, and that's what I want to sell, because I want to be able to pick my own fabrics. I want to be able to have my own designs and decide, where I want to have it made and have it be good, have it feel good. So when people are wearing it, they feel good. So she made that decision because what she was doing wasn't working anymore. But when she made that decision, and she knew where she wanted to get to launch this private label line, but what's happening in the middle is messy. And even though you have a plan in place, things don't always go the way that you want them to go. I know for a fact they don't. Because I have tried so many things and I've said, okay, I'm launching this new thing. And then we get into it and we launch it and we're doing it and it's not working. So when you're navigating that messy middle, you have to be willing to have missteps and failures and doubt. And you have to be willing to see that that's all part of the process. And it's really hard because we want everything to work out. Why? Because we have that fear of failure. We have that fear of the outcome, a negative outcome. We have a fear of rejection. I mean, there's different fears that we can go through, but these are all part of the process. So in order to do something that you have a dream in your heart about, you have to take action. And when you're taking action, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be people that doubt you. There's going to be people that say, oh, you know what? This isn't right. I think you're doing it wrong. There's going to be that along the way. But what is going to help you to get through that self-doubt, to get through those limiting beliefs, to get through that imposter syndrome is remembering who you are and being open to shedding that armor of, oh, they can't see what I don't know, or I don't want to go into the unknown because I don't want to fail, shedding that. And that's what starts to happen in that transformation in that messy middle. With my assistant, it's shedding that doubt of, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, or this isn't going to work for me, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's costing a lot of money. And oh my gosh, what happens? What if it turns out right? What if it's incredible? What if it works and a million people buy your stuff? What if these new things that we're implementing into the restaurant, what if when you do it, you start to see things differently? So then what we do is we start to prepare food better. We start to have a better customer experience. start thinking of the what ifs in that light. So the thing that it comes down to is, because we have those tactical things, we have those external things that we can do, but then we also have the internal stuff. And what it comes down to is learning how to dance. You've heard me talk about conviction and adaptability. Learning how to dance and to function in that unknown, that to say, you know what, I want to dig into the unknown, because somewhere in there is something that we really need. Somewhere in that unknown and that stripping away of the things that don't serve you is something that something bigger than us wants us to see, wants us to utilize, wants us to adapt, wants us to learn, whatever it is, to move us in a better direction, to move us in the direction that we need to go. And how this shows up is a lot of businesses, and I see it in particularly the restaurant industry, they don't want to do things differently. They don't want to look at things differently. So what do? They do the things the same way that they've always done them, which doesn't align with the market. So if we're willing to get messy, if we're willing to say, you know what, I'm going to be afraid of admitting that I don't know what to do. I'm going to be willing to admit that. I'm going to be willing to lean into that fear and get messy and try. And the more we try, the more we build that confidence. The more we try, the more we can wade through all of those obstacles and those challenges and those things that are so super hard as we are going through that transformation, as we are learning new things and we're trying new things. And we're just having that fear and doing it anyway. And pulling from. So here's some of the things that you can do. Surround yourself with good people who are growth-minded people. Surround yourself with people who are going to push you when it's hard. You can't do this by yourself. If you're in Maine and you want to get to Florida and you think that riding a bike is going to be the fastest way, no. So surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with growth-minded people that can help you to push you further. Get a coach, get a mentor, get in a community, whatever that looks like. As a leader, being vulnerable enough to say that you're not going to have all the answers, but you're going to do it anyway. And you're going to, together, you're going to figure things out. Have a belief that you can figure things out. Have that steadfast belief, that unwavering belief that no matter what, you're going to figure it out. And once you figure it out, you're going to continue moving forward. And you're going to figure something else out. And you're going to figure something else out. And as you do that, you start to build more confidence. And as you do it, you start to strip away and let go of that armor of, I'm going to protect myself from not failing. I'm going to protect myself from rejection. Because when we build that armor up, we're not able to connect with other people. And I've learned that the hard way. So get around good people. Believe in your ability to figure anything out. And realize that what's happening is that you're becoming. You're not broken. You shouldn't close your business. You're becoming. And when we realize you're becoming, we realize that this growth is something that needed to happen. You're becoming as a business. You're becoming as a person. You're becoming as a leader. So as I close this out, I want to read you something my husband sent me that I just thought was so amazing. You are not a finished story. And I'm just going to add, your business isn't a finished story. You are not a final draft, and neither is your business. You are still becoming. You're still growing. You're still unfolding. You're still learning how to carry the weight of your own heart. There are parts of you that are still healing, parts of you that are still learning how to trust, parts of you that are still figuring out where you belong. And as a business, I'm just going to add, you're figuring out what that next chapter is for your business, what that next chapter is for your team. And that's okay. Because growth is messy, it's uncomfortable, it's full of doubt and missteps and questions with no answers. But just because you're not where you want to be yet, just because your business hasn't reached that number or that whatever, doesn't mean you won't get there, because you will. So be patient with yourself, be patient with your team, be patient with the business. Be kind to your heart. You are not broken, and neither is your business. You are in progress, and so is your business. And one day you'll see you were never lost. You were just becoming. I thought that was like, he sent that to me as I was navigating and having these meetings with people and saying, yes, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to do this because you've never done it before. But that's how you grow. And at the end of the day, as people, as human beings, we want to feel that aliveness of life. We want to have that growth. We want to have real connection with people. And none of that can happen if we're not willing to navigate that messy middle. So, till next week, have a great rest of your week. Bye for now. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on this show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.